I've got a question about gyms in general. What do you guys think about franchising? About taking a name of a gym?
The thing with franchising is every gym has their own idea about how they want to run it. Mm-hmm. Like Origins has a very like staple way of how they want to teach parkour, and Vinnie likes to teach parkour in a certain way, and a lot of those might align, but they do have differences. And so when you're franchising a gym, you have to make sure you have exactly the right people running it, so that how you want that franchise to go, it matches how your original plan was.
Do you believe parkour should be taught in styles like martial arts, or do you think that it should be more improvisation or freestyle?
I think it should be. I don't know. I don't think we should have defined styles. I don't think that's going to really work out. Obviously, I've had different experiences in parkour than, say, Tom has, and so we're going to end up teaching a little bit differently. But I feel like for the entire community growth, that'll be a better way of doing things, because then if we move around, say I like go to Vancouver, I can learn things from them and then bring it back to my gym and then implement those ideas. Whereas if we have completely different styles, or like actually like cut those off and make them like separate, then it's a lot harder to like kind of swirl it around and implement them when I go visit other places. So I think with franchising, it's just difficult because it's such a high risk thing, because you have to make sure who you're entrusting that facility to is like really on point.
You don't want parkour to have a bad name for a bad manager or something?
Exactly. Like I don't want, like let's make it an even more selfish reason. I don't want my business to look bad under that name if someone else messes it up for me, in that sort of a sense. But yeah, parkour in the whole as well.
Yeah. With there's no Apex representatives here, right?
No.
Because yeah, they're Apex is a franchise, as far as I know.
Yes.
Yeah, like
sure here is too.
When I decided I wanted to open up a gym and the things I wanted to do with it, one of the principles is that I just wanted to try to have like one of the best single places. The idea of expanding didn't really occur to me until like a lot of parents started coming in and like seeing that it was busy and like, oh, you thinking of doing another one, and trying to get in there. And I think it would be a good cash grab, but ultimately it's not what I was trying to do originally. And to do that, I would end up not being able to spend as much time on the gym that we already have that is, in my mind, still not complete, not finished, still needs more work, still needs more to do. So
I think when you franchise, like Ken was saying, you sacrifice the integrity of your product. It's hard to find good coaches in parkour.
Yeah, you can't just pick someone up.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is your programming has to be really on point. Like something that Apex does is they have a curriculum. They have the same curriculum and they put it to all the gyms. Now after that is all the coaches are trained that way, then those gym owners actually kind of go more their own ways. So it's still, Apex NorCal is going to feel a lot different than the Boulder or the Denver, which are different than each other. But for that takes a lot of attention and a lot of organization to take the things that you're teaching people and codify them in a way that is teachable to the students and teachable to people to teach them, which a lot of people who are passionate about parkour and who love it or maybe good athletes don't necessarily look at first thing when they want to start teaching it or opening a gym. They're like, well, I love it. I like to do these things, so I could just show these people how to do it. When in reality, if you want to have a mass of very qualified coaches, you're going to need a program to do that. So,
I feel like maybe coaches need to be trained in like just communication skills, because most people are self-taught. So like a lot of people weren't taught by a coach, so they don't know what that format needs to be. I don't know.
Which is why, like Apex, you go through a teaching curriculum. You learn how to become a good teacher.
Colin? Or not so good teacher. Yeah. I think like certifications is along the same lines for me. It's like, no, I don't have any parkour certs. I don't plan on getting any.
Yeah, but you certify internally.
Yeah, if you want to, like, any of the certifying, any of the people that have an organization that makes certification and wants to come to Origins and do it for free, do it. But I'm not gonna spend money on the travel or spend money on the actual certification itself. And it's not because I think I'm better than what they're doing. It's just I don't see how you can teach even someone to really coach in a weekend.
Well, to clarify, I'm talking about the full apprenticeship program after that weekend.
Yeah.
Basically, that.
But do they monitor that?
No. Well, this is the thing. It's like, but internally, how do you?
Is that not? You don't think that's a problem though?
Oh, I think it's a problem. But how do you deal with your coaches? Like, you need to train.
Yeah, it's all
people.
in-house.
Yeah, it's in-house.
It's all
So
in-house, right?
They would still be certified, but by your program.
But we
Which
don't
is
expect any
very
other
clean cut.
gyms to recognize that.
No.
Fair enough.
You don't? I mean,
No.
you don't
I mean-
think that if somebody came from Origins and went to another gym and said, "Hey, I've been teaching with Origins for 2 years."
We
I
would
went
hope
through
that the
their
reputation
apprenticeship."
would hold,
Yeah.
but we
Or
don't
they can-
expect like that. It's like, oh, I have this card that says I'm affiliated.
But ultimately, that's what Apex is doing. Like, they're not governmentally certified. You don't have to hire Apex.
Didn't Yamakasi do that originally?
I think in the UK there are some.
But then what's the point of getting a certification then?
Theoretically, they're teaching you something, right?
Sure.
I mean,
But isn't like parkour? That's the beauty of parkour. Like, I learned with Joey like a lot more in like a weekend than I've been with another teacher that has been doing like same acrobatics for years, and they teach me the other way around some stuff. He's like, oh, just do this progressions and that's it, and you're like, wow, I get it, no? You know, you can go to Origins and they have like this way of teaching, or you go to, I don't know, like to Montana, they do other stuff. And that's the beauty of it, because you know like how their styles are combined, and you know where to go for each one. And that's the beauty of it. Like if you go fully systematic on it, like you lose that essence.
so I think
The freedom of parkour, what it is.
I think that right now it's nice to look around and see that everybody who has a gym is also doing parkour and has been doing parkour long before they owned a gym or helped teach in a gym. I don't think that will always be the case. I think there are a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with necessarily wanting to start a business based around parkour.
Gyms have failed for it, though.
Well, so I mean, there should be a way to do that, right? Like there should be a way to have people who can teach well, and for business owners to be able to hire them and know who those people are.
Sure.
And I mean, to some degree, that's just being immersed in the community. But I think there's a place for teaching coaches. I don't know exactly what that looks like.
You got to understand that the majority of teaching how to coach is applicable to any other thing that you are coaching. Parkour specific part is not the largest part of teaching.
It's how to communicate skills to someone else.
Like communication being.
So that's why, even if we don't know the particulars of Origin's internal certification to be able to like just give them carte blanche to run a class of ours, we're going to know that they're at least trained to coach well, right? Because they are going to have skills in managing people, managing classes and queuing and things like that.
Does anybody else have a certification like program here besides Apex?
Internal certification, yeah.
Everybody just has internal ones. Yeah.
Well, yeah, ours is internal, but it's formalized.
Okay.
It's open.
It will be open.
It
Yeah,
is
so
open soon,
we're running it.
if not now.
Would you guys ever have like an official certification that you would like post online and be like, this person
Yeah,
has
just
passed?
about 3 months long.
Yeah.
and
What would your purpose be for doing that? Would that be
People,
for
the thing is, people want
franchising, or would it be for other
certifications.
people to notice it?
I'm not interested in franchising, honestly. People want certifications because it is basically the paradigm for legitimacy, right? You see it all across the board. Any sport that has a governing body is going to require you to have certifications. What kind of certifications do PTs have to do? And like personal trainers. People won't hire you if you don't have those.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things to fit into that systematic way of selling movement and selling sports.
Is that
I guess
the best
the
way
issue
to do
That's
is,
kind of
I
where
guess the
people
issue
want
though
to go
is
with that.
personal trainers. There's some really bad personal trainers.
I
who
know.
get
I'm not
certified
saying.
really
I'm not at all saying
All you
certification
just do
is
is you
worth
pay the money
anything.
for it, and you go through the course. You like barely pass, and you're a certified personal trainer. Doesn't necessarily mean you're a good one. And I think that's the problem with the personal training industry. Actually, is there's not enough.
I agree it's a problem, but it's still, as far as like certification meaning more than it actually is, which it actually is. You can regurgitate whatever you were told in those 3 days. and you passed the test and you paid enough money, right? That's how usually certs go for anything. The sports industry, I went to massage therapy, same thing. You know, you get certified for this this modality and this modality. It doesn't teach you the modality. You're not a master of this movement, of this modality. You just paid somebody to tell you something, and then you told them it back, and you got the cert. But it builds credibility in the system, and it makes people feel like they have done something. Like, that's more where I go with it from, is like they want to know that I trust them to run my classes. And I can't do that unless I put them through a program and teach them how I would want them to teach classes. And then give them something at the end that says, yes, you went and you learned, and I feel comfortable, or a PKV feels comfortable with you as a coach in the pool.
That sounds to me more like an apprenticeship program than it does a certification.
It is an apprenticeship program. It's an apprenticeship, but
so that's something that we actually endorse.
They're certified at the end.
We have
just a better
certificate. We like
But it's
apprenticeship
still, yeah.
because that means they're actually spending a lot of time, actually coaching, hands-on practical material, and also all the theory behind it.
But it doesn't change that at the end they're certified as your level 1 coach or whatever that first level of coaching
I mean,
is.
but we don't even have to use that term. We're just
Fair
assuming that they're an Origins coach, so they went through that process.
To be fair, our end goal, so this was something we learned. So we're a nonprofit, Parkour Visions, and that means we have a board, and we have board meetings on the regular. So one of our board members had mentioned a format of scholarship that another nonprofit uses, the boat school or boat building school in Washington. And basically it's this idea that, hey, this is an apprenticeship, it's worth $3,000 because of the hours you're spending, but when you apply, you're also applying for a scholarship. So in reality, no one's going to actually pay for it other than with their time.
Yeah, I do feel like that's probably going to happen in the future, and Rene and Tom can disagree if they want, but I think more people are going to do it, and there's probably going to be a higher demand for it, maybe from the public and other gyms to demand some sort of certification. It's a nice idea to have it all internalized.
We're opening ours up to the public, and that means we can put in a lot of work on it. And actually, that works on all the online.
There's been a lot of things that have been disagreed with in the parkour community for a long time, and then people just change their way of thinking or accept an idea after really going against it for quite some time.
Looking like even outside of the parkour community, like me and Daniel behind the camera are doing outdoor classes, and if we don't, but if we had a certification, we could say to kids' parents, look, we have a certification. They don't really know what that means, but it makes them trust us. You know what I mean? Like
that's like just a huge flaw with
whole
people's
system.
Perception of parkour or anything though.
What makes it a good certification?
Just the fact that people will be like, oh, you have this thing that kind of sounds legit.
it's a flaw, but like nonetheless, if we had that, it would make our outdoor classes much bigger.
Right. It gives you the initial possibility of credibility.
Actually, one of the something that
exactly.
But there's something that Tyson said about it. He's, if someone from Parkour Visions decided, oh, I'm going to move to Vancouver for 2 years, asked if we have an opening in coaching, we don't. But if we did have an opening to take on more staff, I would just call Tyson or Brandy or whoever. I would say, hey, how is this person? Cool. Do you mind talking? And if that's going to be part of it too. I'd be like, oh, maybe we need to talk for about like an hour about this person. Do you have that time? So we're and kind of back and forth like that. Because actually, the way I see Origins developing coaches right now is actually through our program. So people that have been in the program, unless you're moving over. And this is all hypothetical because right now we don't have any room to hire new coaches. So we're not hiring. But if I had one spot, it would either be someone moves to Vancouver and I probably already know them or heard of them, and they at least have some credibility as an athlete or coach somewhere else, or they've been in our program and know the program because they were built in it. And that's it, right?
I almost feel like the certification, like you were saying, you are in the parkour community, like you're very enveloped in it. So if somebody said, hey, I'm from Apex, like I taught there, you could just be like, call up Ryan Ford, talk to him about this person, or you might already know the person and you might have like a relationship with them. But a parent taking their kid to, like somebody completely outside of the parkour community, taking their kid or wanting to take their kid to a class, outdoor, indoor, whatever it is, can't do that. They have no way to, the first class, like, they'll see, okay, this is a good coach, or okay, this is a bad coach, I'm not going to come back. But to get them to go to that first class, there's nothing to say, hey, I am a good coach, other than like.
I get the question all the time. So is there a certification?
And it might be a problem.
Is there a certification for parkour? Just like a concerned parent, just like whatever. I tell them that we developed our program with coaching experience between the two of us, probably like 15 years of coaching experience. I could say that because that's true. I drop other things like, I have a master's degree in kinesiology, which doesn't mean anything. Like, I could just get a master's degree in kinesiology. It doesn't mean anything for parkour coaching. But it carries weight. I can just, but it like, I guess like that's kind of like what I want. I guess this is actually a topic I kind of want to bring up. This similar concept is, I think just because you're an athlete doesn't mean you're a coach.
I agree 100%.
And I think that's the problem with certification is that, people are just kind of like, they want to make a career with parkour and they're like, okay, well, I really like doing parkour. What are my options? I can become an owner of a gym, which, there's tons of, barriers to that. I can try to be a coach, what else? You can't really be an athlete. Like I can be a stuntman.
Yeah.
I can try to do performance work. But yeah, a coaching is like a big thing for people because it's the first thing that the first line of skill that you can actually, a product that you can actually sell. And I think people are choosing that career path or that job just based on the fact that they like doing parkour, rather than because they actually have a passion for coaching. And I think the certification process just feeds that fire where it's like, okay, so I'm just going to pay my money, I'm going to get my certification, and then I'm going to be able to start charging people for this skill that I think I have. But like, do you really like coaching? Do you try to improve every day at like what you're doing, or are you just doing it because it's parkour? It's an opportunity to make a living doing the thing you like to do.
I feel like it's more like our responsibility to like teach people about that, because it's natural and it happens all the time. They're like, oh, I learned a move or two and now I'm a teacher. I'm gonna teach people, and maybe they can teach it, but until a certain level, and that's it. Afterwards, they're just done, and and they can injure people. They can like show people parkour their own like ways and stuff that it's not even real. Like we have a lot of cases in Mexico where like this kid just started training like, I don't know, 1 year before the other guys, and he's like the teacher, and he goes like, yeah, you can do it. They do a jump and they get injured,
right?
They just do it. They just do it, And then you have to like tell people like, if you do want to coach and that's what you want to do, get informed and get teaching processes, like how to like get interaction with kids and stuff, and go through that, and then come back to parkour. And just like parkour is not systematical. You can't just systematic it because it's a lot more than that. And like I said, everyone has a different way to teach things and different ways of moving. Like I won't ever be able to like teach like Joey. He can teach a lot more stuff than I can. But I know I can teach a lot more than, I don't know, DeAndre can with not other stuff, But that's the beauty of it, That's the beauty of it. No, like I don't know, I can teach him lache praise, and he can teach me like 14-step strides or something. I don't know, and that's the beauty of it. But unless you want to be a coach, don't fire it like says Tom. Don't be like, oh, here's the free package that costs you this much to be a coach, and you're ready, and you can just go and teach. No, if you want to come to a parkour class, we'll say like parkour, what it's about, you have to be strong. You have to be faithful to the discipline, to the philosophy. You want to teach. You have to learn this and this extra stuff that has nothing to do with parkour, but like in general concept, and then be ready to like give a class and work on it. You know, you just can't sell the idea of like, oh, here's a free weekend in our gym, and you pay it, and now you're a coach. Yeah, good luck with your work. You know, that's not how it works.
Just to be clear,
it takes a while.
I'm not like against like coaching pedagogy. Like I'm not against like coaches learning how to coach better. I just don't think.
No.
I just don't think a weekend certification is enough.
I agree completely.
Yeah, it's a process, a long process. It's not like just like.
I think we're actually really close to having oversaturation with that.
Yeah.
Because you have, just trying to count the certs, at least in North America, PKGN does one, Apex does one, American Parkour, what am I missing? WFF, right? You probably have I don't know, how many parkour coaches that are certified under those? Probably hundreds. Yeah, in North America. And not that it's whatever. Like I'm not saying you need to have some sort of mastery stuff, because no one has that of parkour to open up a gym and teach someone. In fact, I think you can open up a parkour gym and not even do parkour. And you might even actually be doing a good like justice to people that want to do it. You could there's actually, I know gyms that have people that own it that don't do it at all. And there's still some good stuff coming out of there. There's some bad stuff, but I think that's just bad business, though. Not necessarily that they don't understand parkour, that they just made bad business calls with it. But yeah, I don't think you need to have this huge standard to try to make a coaching business or a gym out of parkour. But for me personally, to put my name on something, I can't do that. I can't comprehend certifying 100 people. Absolutely.
Without
this is personally
taking the time to actually teach each one.
Yeah, I think we can move on from this other, but I like to say just one last thing that's important too. I think there's this worry of people taking the cert and then going and teaching with carte blanche. I keep saying carte blanche today.
Carte blanche.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I'm so smart. You guys have no idea. And just running off and teaching with it and maybe hurting somebody or whatever. But I just don't think that's a real risk, because they can do that. They can do that anyway. So when I was trying to decide if I wanted to get into parkour coaching, I just approached a couple private schools around near me, and I'm like, hey, can I teach parkour class here? And they're like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. And I went and I did it, and I injured half the class teaching them rolls, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not very good at teaching. It took me, a long time, a learning experience, and those were my test subjects. So one thing that's the note of this is so Apex is a short amount of time with Apex, but there's a number of hours that they require you to do teaching to finish the certification. And I think still the majority of people don't finish it, or a pretty high percentage of people just don't finish it. They pay for it to go and get the knowledge, but they don't actually do the hours, do the extra work that they need to finalize the certification. Yeah. So it's that's where I would want somebody to be able to go to figure out if they want to be a parkour coach before they jump in and open a gym or pitch it to a school or something, right? I want them to go somewhere where they can get some education and not the best, but they can at least get an idea for what coaching parkour is like.
Have the commitment of making that your career.
You're
actually going to
that's
coach.
part of their intent. Is the first gateway for people into coaching parkour, not.
I think people just get excited and think, oh, we can do certifications now, and then
Yeah.
so many people get the same idea, and then you just have the oversaturation that Rene was mentioning of people not maybe living up to a standard that certain people who don't choose to do a certification try to live themselves up.
It's up to us to have the high standards.
Yeah.
Push them out there.
Exactly.
And get people to do it.
It's interesting. I wonder how beneficial it's actually been for people who have gotten certifications, as far as getting something done in their community or being able to show the general public that they have a certification, if it's actually helped them at all.
Yeah, I think it's been good. A lot of colleges and organizations and stuff require them, right? Before you can do something, so it's enabled those to actually happen.
And I think other gyms are going to have the necessity for it as well. I mean, smaller gyms might, if you have a certification, it's going to help you move on to much greater things. And if you're a franchise, it's probably going to look a little better for you. But if you're so internalized and your one goal is to have a gym that's going to be the best gym or something, it might not have a necessity as much as like other gyms would.
But what happens when like you meet all the standards of like qualification stuff and you're a teacher, but then your class gets bigger and gets better, and then you can't teach them anymore? I think it's also like a responsibility for each teacher to train themselves to become better at it, and just don't stay like, oh, I know this, I can teach this, and that's it. Because I see a lot of teachers doing that. They get like their qualifications, they know how to do an awesome class, teach perfectly, but they themselves, they forget to train like higher levels, and they get to a point they can't teach anymore. Like, how do you deal with that, you know?
It's okay.
I feel like
Depends on who they're teaching. I mean,
No, yeah.
we've had coaches at Parkour Visions who would teach pretty much exclusively kids classes, and they didn't train a whole lot on their own. They weren't amazing athletes, but for what they were doing, for the limited class experience they were creating for their students, they knew how to cue the movements they want and produce a good result and have a good, safe class experience. So I don't think it's necessarily that every parkour coach has to have the goal of being an elite parkour athlete as well.
Yeah, but
It's
I
just
think
knowing
they should be also.
So
You can't teach that forever.
In the beginning, like David Belt was so good that people approached him and said, "Will you teach me?" So that he didn't go and get a certification, set up a gym, say, "All right, now I can teach people." He just trained so much that people wanted to be able to do that, so they came to him. Like, I feel like that is
We live
what
in
a coach needs to be.
Like I have people in Mexico.
We have a culture now. Like that was before
Yeah.
we even had any of this.
But, like-
right, it's completely different than
And then,
that.
Just want to know how many people here teach under 8 years old.
7.
Teach under 8 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
4.
Because
We started
it's
really-
more about, particularly if they're all beginners, it's more about getting them to do something.
Exactly. It doesn't really matter.
Getting them to do
so much
something,
what.
and you being okay with it, and
Yeah.
them having a good time.
Exactly.
And hopefully sticking with sticking with parkour. But yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with actually specialize in that demographic and being maybe limited in your parkour practice, but like I can see like for yourself personally that's an ideal that you have, and a philosophy you have for yourself, and somewhat agree on some of those there. But I don't think there's anything wrong with someone getting a little bit of coaching experience but being awesome with kids.
Yeah.
Because it's actually super rare with a lot of guys who might be an awesome technical coach with adults or just be like a really great athlete themselves, but they just can't handle working with people or working with kids.
Yeah.